Even though I've always liked sports, I don't know that I was born with a lot of inherent athletic ability. But one year, when I was a sophomore in high school, I decided that I was going to be on the wrestling team. It's really hard. So, especially not having done it as a freshman, I was thrown in there with everyone who sort of had done it already and knew the ropes and the moves and everything like that. So, it got me in shape, but it was rough. So, a good learning experience. I remember there was a classmate of mine who was in my weight class who had wrestled since he was like 4. He's from like this pedigree wrestling family. They all wrestled at Michigan and all this kind of stuff. Well, we'd have these drills where like you'd spar with someone for like 60 seconds and then kind of rotate around. Of course, he would just slam my whatever against the wall, and I'd be on the ground, and I remember trying to get up each time as slowly as I could to shave off some seconds, because I knew as soon as I was up, I was back against the wall. That year, I had more skin diseases than wins. Thanks for laughing. Yeah, I had 2 of the former and 0 of the latter. So there was once I almost beat some kid from Port Clinton, but I didn't know what to do because I was always just on the ground. And so he won by points from my mistakes. I remember my very first match ever was against St. Francis of all people, and it lasted like 11 seconds. Like, I don't even know what happened. It was crazy. It's crazy. So it was an interesting experience. And I only did it that one year. After like my junior year, I did other stuff like get a job and participate in our parish youth group back when that was a thing. So I was thinking of this because the word Israel, the original meaning of Israel, is one who wrestles with God. This comes from Jacob, who is the son of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham, who is our father Abraham's grandson. Now Jacob he had a little devious streak to him. So Jacob had this older brother, Esau, and as the oldest, he had the right to the inheritance, the birthright, but Jacob wanted it for himself. And so Esau was like this hairy dude, and so when Isaac was blind from just old age, like me, like probably by next year, he put hair on his arms and then went to ask his father for the blessing, and he felt his arms and said, "Oh, this must be Esau. I'm going to give you the blessing. I'm going to give you the birthright." Well, it turns out it wasn't, but then he couldn't, there's no takebacks, you know? So Esau wasn't really happy with that, of course. So Jacob headed out of town and tried to reconcile and all that. But before that happened, there was one night where this man appeared who was really an angel from God. And this angel and Jacob wrestled all night long. They like sparred all night long. And when the daybreak was coming, the angel said, the daylight's coming, you got to let me go. And Jacob said, well, first you got to bless me. Well, of course, then he struck his hip, so he walked funny, and then let him go. The angel said, your name has been Jacob, your name will now be Israel, because you wrestled with God, you struggled with God, and prevailed. I don't know that he won. Like if you read it in Genesis 32, it's kind of a draw, but he prevailed in the struggle. He prevailed in the struggle. He didn't lose. He prevailed in the struggle. This week I heard an interesting homily online where he took the line that we hear in 2 of our readings, that "Hear, O Israel," and he plugged in the original origin of the name. So, hear, you who wrestle with God. I thought that was fascinating. Hear, you who wrestle with God. Don't we all wrestle with God? I mean, we're here in church, but I think we all struggle in faith sometimes. Maybe even wrestle with, does God even exist? Is he real? Maybe we struggle in prayer, in relationship with God in that way. Maybe we struggle with, what's God doing in my life? What does God want from me? Maybe we struggle with where God is when a bunch of stuff's going down in our life. There's a lot of ways that we can find ourselves wrestling with God. And then Jesus adds this commandment to love our neighbor as ourselves. Sometimes we wrestle with that. We struggle with that, especially when it's people we don't like or who have hurt us, that we struggle with in some way. That call to love them, which is not to say have warm, fuzzy feelings, but desire what's good for them, and to desire to know their dignity and to have respect for them. And sometimes that we love our neighbor as ourselves, we struggle to love ourselves, to recognize our own worth, not from anything that we do or accomplish, but just because we are. We struggle sometimes we believe in those lies that we tell ourselves, that we hear from other people. So we're wrestling with God, we're wrestling with others, we're wrestling even with ourselves. But what do we hear? This great commandment. Hear, O Israel, hear, O people who wrestle with God. The Lord our God is Lord alone. There's no other. God is not like just some part of our life among other things. He's over it all, above it all, and also in it all. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, with everything that we have, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. You know, the manual for your car that you keep in your glove box, maybe, is put together by the people who made the car, right? Because they know how it's supposed to work, and they know what's going to help keep it going. So to the one who made us, who thought each of us into existence, and who, in a sense, miraculously brought each of us to life here on earth, knows what's going to make us grow and prosper. We hold fast to God as the only Lord of our life, and that we look to love God with everything that we have, of our thoughts and decisions and actions and affections, and that we keep God first, and that we look to love our neighbor as ourselves, even when it's hard. No one likes to struggle with stuff, but we know a lot of times it's in that struggling that we grow, that we learn, that we get stronger, that we appreciate things more. So there's benefits to have to struggle. And of course, the good news is we're not left to struggle alone, like God's sort of watching this, wrestling match somehow on TV. He's with us all the while. We heard in our second reading from Hebrews that Jesus, the second person of the Holy Trinity, the Alpha and the Omega, that he came to offer himself for us. And it says in Hebrews that he lives forever to intercede for us, and that he is always able to save those who approach God through him. The same Jesus who we meet in the Mass, who offers us a communion in his self-giving love. Pope Benedict XVI, in his letter on love, said, "Love can be commanded because it has first been given." And this commandment to love God with everything we have and our neighbor as ourself, isn't even, in a sense, a commandment, more than an invitation to the relationship that we were made for. So as we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, despite all of our struggles and wrestlings, let us know that he is with us and ask for that grace to persevere, to prevail, and to grow ever closer to the kingdom of God.